Hey friends, here's part 2 of our cozy Christmas stitch along. At this point, you should have your embroidery hoop that is dried with watercolors and we're ready to start on the trees. So I've got a size 22 chenille needle with 6 strands of my dark brown embroidery thread, and I'm going to use a long and short stitch to fill in the tree trunks on the pine trees. I'm kind of just starting out with a split stitch, and then it just kind of morphs into a long and short stitch. Okay, now I'm going to knot this off at the back. I just like to pull my needle and thread through some of my previous stitching and tie a little knot. Then I will trim the rest of my thread. Now I'm going to grab a new needle from this embroidery pack. I'm going to grab the smallest one, which is the size 10 embroidery needle, and then I'm only going to use 2 strands of my light green embroidery thread for this next step. It's really tedious, it's going to take forever, but I'll show you why. I promise it's worth it. For the light green trees, and actually for all of the pine trees, you're going to start with the inside and then we'll stitch the snow after that. So I'm just using a satin stitch, and I'm actually kind of changing the angle of each stitch slightly. So I began with a vertical satin stitch and I want to kind of morph my way into a horizontal satin stitch. So I'm just going to gradually do that. With every stitch I'm going to angle it more horizontally, if that makes sense. Okay, now that my first inside layer is finished, I'm going to grab some white thread for the snow. I'm going to do the same thing, so I'm only using 2 strands of embroidery thread with that same size 10 embroidery needle. So when I say 2 strands, I'm just separating it from the 6, putting them together, loading them on my needle. Then I just bring the end of my thread down a couple inches, not the other end, and we're ready to start. And I'm just going to repeat that same process with the snow. So I'm starting my satin stitching vertically, and I'm gradually going to turn it into a horizontal satin stitch. Okay, now for our lighter brown trees. So I've got my size 5 embroidery needle with, you can use anything between 3 and 4 strands of your light brown thread, and I'm going to use a split stitch to fill in the entire thing. So I'm working my way up from the bottom up to the branches, and then for the wider area of the trunk near the bottom, I'll just be using a long and short stitch. So I'll show you that after I fill in the branches here. And now for the snow resting on the branches, I've got that size 5 rotary needle with 3 strands of my white thread. So I'm just tying a knot at one end, and I'm going to place them on the branches strategically as if they're laying there from the snow that was actually falling. I'm just taking those and then just adding a little straight stitch on the top to give the effect of snow sitting on the branch. Okay, and that's all there is to the trees. This is probably one of the longest parts of the pattern, so if you made it this far, then way to go. I will see you in the next video when we will be stitching the reindeer. Thanks for joining me.